Hello, welcome back to my course, Worldview Studies. So let me share my PPT and we will start a new title, new subject today. And as you know, this is a UNESCO Unitwin online course supported by Handong Global University and the Ministry of Education in South Korea. So let me start. Again, this is a worldview studies. And now we are starting to talk about Confucianism. What is Confucianism? Confucianism worldview introduction. Let me give you the fact that Confucianism is one of the representative worldviews of Asia. And we need to distinguish between Confucianism and Neo-Confucianism. We call it Confucianism in Korean, Yu-gyo. In Neo-Confucianism in Korean, Shin-yu-gyo, or Song-li-hak, meaning the learning of nature and principle. So simply put, Confucianism is from Confucius. Confucius during the Han Dynasty in China, which was then further developed by Meiji and Sun Tzu. I have already mentioned their theory on human nature before, while New Confucianism or Neo-Confucianism is from Chu Chi during the Tang Dynasty. Let me give you the background of Confucianism. Well, if you look at the background where Confucianism came from a few hundred years ago, China was already an origin of civilization. It is an ancient civilization. The emperors at that time ruled with a clear standard of morality. Chinese people still think of that time as an ideal society. However, during the spring and autumn period, we call it in Korean 춘추 전국 시대, China was split into many different countries and was one of the most chaotic periods during the history of China. So monarchs changed constantly and politically, and socially there was confusion and morality fell to the ground. At this time, Confucianism appeared through Confucius, who was born in the country of Lu, who was a politician and at the same time a philosopher who tried to overcome the chaotic age. He stressed individuals' practice of morality. At the time, 7 kings were competing to gain control over China, and at this time, Confucius' disciple Meiji came forward and taught Confucian thoughts, and in addition claimed that human beings are innately good and so need to follow the virtues of benevolence, righteousness, propriety, and wisdom. So in Korean, we pronounce in, 의, 예, 지. Those are the 4 major virtues of Confucianism. Then Han Dynasty appeared, which adopted Confucianism as the national policy or national spirit for the first time. Consequently, society became stable and moral standards became clear. Also, imperial examination was adopted and talented people were appointed. And so Chinese people still think of Han Dynasty as one of the most successful dynasty. Confucianism was also introduced to Korea and was adopted as the national policy by Joseon dynasty, and especially Neo-Confucianism bloomed greatly in Korea. And this is the symbol in Chinese letters of Confucianism. There are many books of Confucianism, and the essence of the Confucian worldview is recorded in the 7 Chinese classics, that is, the 4 books and the 3 classics. The 4 books include the Analectics of Confucius, known in Korean, which is the dialogue between Confucius and his disciples that portrays his political and moral thoughts. Mengchi, the book written by Mengchi, Jiangqi, the disciple of Confucius, wrote Great Learning, Daehak in Korean, which is the textbook to Confucianism, and the doctrine of Min, Chung-yong in Korean, which stresses the philosophical Tao of Confucianism. So these 4 books are called 4 books, 사서. And we have another 3 classics include classics of poetry, 시경, collection of ancient Chinese poems, that is book of documents, 서경, which is collection of ancient historical myth and moral lessons, and I Ching, 역경, or classic of changes, which is the principle of yin and yang that is said to govern the world. So these 3 are called the 3 classics, 삼경. And yet we can add 2 more, Book of Rites, 얘기, and Spring and Autumn Annals, 춘추. These 2 books. So altogether, we have 4 books and another 5 classics. So totally 9 books are the main origin of this worldview, you can say. Then what are the moral values of Confucianism? Well, the Confucian worldview is a belief system that puts emphasis on moral values that brings social peace and order. Among the values, benevolence, righteousness, propriety, wisdom, and one more, that is fidelity, are most important. Filial piety is also very important and is represented in the 3 bonds and 5 relationships. We call it 삼강 오륜. The 3 bonds are the bond between a king and subject, 군위 신강, the bond between parents and children, 부, 위, 자, 강, and the bond between a husband and a wife, 부, 위, 부, 강. And there are another 5 relationships in human rule which has royalty between king and subject. Royalty or righteousness, we say 군, 신, 유, 의. The human rule which has affection or love between a father and a son, that is 부, 자, 유, 친. The human rule which has distinction or discrimination between husband and wife, 부부, 유별. The human rule which has order between adults and children, 장, 유서. And the human rule which has trust or confidence between friends, 봉우, 유신. The Confucian worldview stresses hierarchical order of society. Now, there are 2 representative schools of Neo-Confucianism in Korea, and that's very important, so I want to mention it. The 2 major representative schools of Neo-Confucianism are Lee School, we call it 주리파, argued by 퇴계 이황, and Ki School, 주기파, held by 율곡 이의. Later on, these 2 groups have debated for a few hundred years about a complicated and abstract academic issue called 4-7 debate. We call it 사단 칠정론. The 4 sprouts of Menchi are the sprout of compassion, shame, sense of propriety, and what's right and wrong. Whereas the 7 passions of human beings are joy, anger, sorrow, fear, love, hate, and lust. So they debate how these 4 are related with these 7 passions. It's very complicated debate, this 4-7 debate, and the philosophical explanation of the relationship between the 4 sprouts and the 7 passions were different from scholars to scholars because it's too abstract and has been a topic of debate during the Joseon dynasty. So some people say, following Li Huang, they are parallel like this, whereas the other party says the 4 sprouts are included in these 7 passions. So, furthermore, this theoretical and abstract debate did not just end in academia, but also formed political parties. And these 4 factions, called the 4 parties, divided public opinion, and the national power declined. And ultimately, this Joseon dynasty became a colony of Japan during the early 20th century. Now, what are then the contents of Confucianism? Well, basically, if you take a look at the Confucian worldview on what is really true and greatest existence is the concept of heaven. In Korean, we say chun. However, this is a very abstract idea, not a subject of worship nor belief. Following the will of heaven is emphasized, but the heaven is not served as a god with a personality. Zhang Taigum explains this as follows. I quote, those who believe in Confucianism trust heaven, but they do not need to try to believe in heaven. To the contrary, among human beings, we need to try to trust one another continuously. Otherwise, we can be enemies one another. Now, number two, about the nature of external existence. In other words, the essence of the world surrounding us is explained through dualistic yin and yang principle in Confucianism. So you can see yin and yang here. And this is the basic idea of I Ching, that everything is divided into male and female, brightness and darkness, goodness and evil, high and low, life and death, strong and weak, that are complementary and in balance. This theory of yin and yang is systematized during the Song dynasty in China and is commonly known as Neo-Confucianism. In this Neo-Confucianism, this is explained with the words Li and Qi, where Li stands for the principle of the world and Qi, this principle in actual appearance or manifestation. And number three, on what human beings are in the Confucian worldview, the more faithfulness of a person, family, and government is stressed. In the doctrine of the mean, an important Confucian text, the first three lines are as follows. I quote, what heaven has conferred is called the nature. An accordance with this nature is called the path of duty. The regulation of this path is called instruction. Here, the nature of human being are benevolence, righteousness, propriety, and wisdom, meaning that the nature of human beings is originally good, and evil is not the nature of human beings. And this is why Mangchi stresses that after self-moral training and home management comes governing a country and the entire world. So we call it Sushin. You train yourself. Jega, you reign your family first. And then Chiguk, you rule the nation. Then Pyeongchana, you govern the whole world. Number four, on the basis of why human beings are able to gain knowledge, Confucianism teaches that the world is made in an orderly way, so human beings are able to gain knowledge and by study of things. We say that 경물취지, meaning that by thinking of gain knowledge. And this is the first two articles of the 8 articles from the Book of Great Learning. And the annotation of this book, Great Learning Annotation, claims that we can make our knowledge full by reaching the order of all things. And this was deemed as the basis for academia and development, and is the basic system for Confucian epistemology and moral awareness. Number 5, morality has a very detailed standard in the Confucian worldview. However, this morality is not the personal and social morality of the West, but relational morality, the code of action for people in nations and families. In this sense, Confucianism is a moral principle that stresses filial piety, stressing country and family. Through the 3 bonds and 5 relationships, king and subject, parents and children, the elder and the youth, husband and wife, and friends each have detailed moral standards in their relationship. Furthermore, Confucius gave the fundamental standard of moral, which is what you do not want done to yourself, do not do to others. In Korean, we say 기소 불욕 물시어인. Finally, on human history, Confucianism is highly past-oriented because they view the Yao Shun emperor's ruling period as the ideal period, and the goal is to recover this ideal. And an important concept relating to this is ancestor worship. China from the past did ancestral rites, emperor to the great Jade Emperor, and the feudal laws to the court, and ordinary people to their ancestors. However, this was not invented by Confucius, but was the culture of shamanism, which was inherited and developed. Max Weber claimed these rights were for their own longevity and wealth and for their children, and the peace of ancestor was secondary and were not for the next life. So, I think I can stop here, and next time we will continue from this background of Neo-Confucianism. Thank you for your attention, and we will see you.